I am Mr. Aloysius Yong. I have been teaching in St. Pat's for 38 years, and I'll be retiring at the end of this year, having reached the official retirement age. From primary 1 to primary 4, I was in what was called St. Patrick's Junior School, and it was in the grounds of St. Pat's. Then in primary 5 and primary 6, we transferred to St. Stephen's. So I completed my PSLE in St. Stephen's. I came back to St. Pat's as a Sec 1 student. Then I stayed on for the next 6 years, from Sec 1 all the way to Pre-U 2. So I was in school from 1969 to 1974 because I took my A-levels in 1974. Back then we had double session, morning session for senior students and afternoon session for the primary school. The school became co-educational when we had pre-U classes. So the female students started appearing in St. Pat's for the pre-U classes. Right? So that was a very novel situation for us, because all along we have been an all-boys school, and then suddenly you have this influx of female students, so that caused quite a stir amongst the boys. At that time, I think there's only one junior college, and that was National Junior College. Once sufficient junior colleges were built, they phased out the pre-U, pre-university classes. When I was in secondary school, I represented the school in athletics. Then when I was in pre-U, I represented the school in judo. The school had a judo club, and St. Pat's was the national champions. And we had a student who was the first schoolboy to earn a black belt. One of the things that I learned from my CCA is that if you want to be successful, then you have to put in the hard work. Right? There's no such thing as a minimum effort and you get maximum results. Okay, I remember Mr. Yu Wing Ki. He was the senior assistant of the school. He was the prefect master at that time, and I was in the prefectorial board. He was a gentleman, His word was his bond. So if he said something, if he promised something, he would deliver. He was like me, a student of the school, and after that he continued in the school, and he stayed on with St. Pat's all the way until he retired. So he was one of many teachers that inspired me. I was a prefect since secondary 1. So in lower secondary, I was the assistant head prefect. And when I was in pre-U 1, I was then appointed as head prefect. When I was a student here, the C was where Marine Parade Estate now is, right? And our school was not so built up. In fact, there were a lot of open spaces in the school, and there were many huge and leafy trees. So that gave the whole school a kind of the ambience of a resort. We had a school hall, but it was a single-story hall. Yeah, like I said earlier, the school's built-up area was not so extensive as it is today. We had what we call now Buckley Block. Then we had this heritage room and the chapel. And then we had the brothers' residence. So if you look from the air, it looks like a H. At that time, I think the teachers in the school, they taught more than just subjects. They also tried to, in their interactions with us, I think they influenced us, whether they realize it or not. And I think some of us, in fact, I'm told that by some of my friends that, some of their hobbies, they took up the hobbies because the teachers introduced them to the hobbies. Yeah, so I think our teachers back then were, to us as students, they were larger than life. Back then, I think prayers were mainly Christian Catholic prayers. It was only later when Brother Joseph McNally became the principal of the school that the school included prayers from other religions, especially for special school events. Yeah, and I think he has remained with us all these years. I started off as a teacher in 1980, and over the years I have practically taken up most of the leadership appointments in the school. When I was about to complete my training as a teacher, I received an invitation from the late Brother Joseph McNally. He spoke to me about, how would you like to come back to St. Pat's to teach, and I didn't need much persuasion. I was teaching mathematics and lower secondary science. Then as I progressed, I began to specialize more and more in mathematics, and I eventually ended up teaching elementary math and additional math. I was teacher in charge of athletics, teacher in charge of football, teacher in charge of computer club. The computer club was quite interesting because at that point in time, we really had to start from scratch. We had to set up the computer labs. We had to teach ourselves computer programming. CCAs were very different then. When you are appointed teacher in charge, it means that you do everything. There were no coaches, nothing. One of the challenges was that when I was a HOD, I was relatively young compared to the teachers in the department. I had to learn how to manage teachers who are more senior than me. I had to learn how to manage teachers who were once my teachers. My role as a vice principal is to help and support the principal. If we use the analogy that the school is a ship, then the principal is a captain and the vice principal is the first mate. I see my role as supporting the principal in helping him, making sure that the ship that it proceeds smoothly towards its destination. And the destination that we all have in mind is the vision for the school, which is a Lassallean institution that nurtures patricians to be worthy of God and man. It's a very noble, it's a very lofty vision, but I think it's something worthwhile. And how do we get to that destination? That is where the P and VP leads the teachers towards this common vision. sometimes when I speak to the student body from the rostrum, I always tell them that from where I'm standing, what I'm looking at is a reservoir of talent. If you are willing to commit yourself to your 4 or 5 years in St. Pat's, you will leave school with many lessons that you will take with you for life. Firstly, I'm going to take a break of about maybe 1 to 2 months, and then after that I have a few projects that will occupy my time, but I will definitely be seeking to engage myself both intellectually, physically, as well as socially, right? So I intend to make good use of my time. And another area that I would like to increase my contribution in would be volunteer work. Right now I'm helping out in a hospice, but the time is a bit limited because of working hours. So I think once I retire, I should be able to increase the time spent at doing such voluntary work. Hospice is where the terminally ill patients, they try to make their life comfortable before the illness overcomes them. So such people can be quite lonely, and sometimes all they need is somebody to be with them, because their family members can't always be around, especially if they are working. So during this dark period of their lives, I think they would really appreciate it if there is someone that they can at least talk to, even for a few minutes. I think it means a lot to them. So the little time that I spend, I think, I hope is very meaningful, and it helps them in their life's journey. So I'm looking to see if I can increase my volunteer hours in such organizations and in such capacities. When I started on this journey, this day seemed quite far away. I think being in St. Pat's, being a teacher in St. Pat's, has been a very meaningful and very worthwhile journey. Something that I think many young people might be looking for, because I think what we are looking for is a sense of purpose, and I think that's what being a teacher in St. Pat's, or being in the education service, that is what has provided me all these years, this sense of purpose. So a bit sad to leave, but then every good thing must eventually come to an end.
Thank you, Mr. Yong, for everything you've done for the school.
Good luck in your life after St. Pat's, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Yong, for having all the talks. It really helped me. Thank you, Mr. Yong, for your morning talks. It really helped to shed some light on some issues, and thank you for emphasizing the importance of coming to school early.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Yong. I feel that the talks have been to me like something that brightens my day every day, because like they can get quite interesting. So thank you, sir, and I wish you a prosperous life ahead.
Thank you for your contribution in school, for everything you've done, being an inspiration to like many individuals like me. I've been like impacted by what your speeches, your inspirational things that you say. So I wish you like a happy retirement and a happy life after retiring from St. Pat's. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Yong, happy retirement. We had a great interview, as you remember. Alright, thank you so much for whatever you've done.
Thank you, Mr. Yong, for everything that you've done for the school, and have a happy retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Yong, for all you've done for the school and happy retirement.
I'm blessed to see such a humble person like you teach us values. I'll never forget about the soccer theory you gave us and how nothing is impossible and that we should never give up. Once again, 1,000 thanks to you, and I wish you good luck for your next adventure.
Throughout my years here, I can hand on heart say that the vast majority of patricians, they have very strong affection for the school. When the school needs their help, then they rally to help the school. You can see it when the school celebrates its anniversaries. Sometimes we have to turn away old boys because the venue cannot accommodate everybody. Why do they have this affection for the school? I think it's a variety of reasons. The teachers play a part. Some of our practices play a part. Students who take part in certain CCAs forge very strong ties with one another. I suppose it's an amalgamation of all this that then creates this affection, strong affection for the school. I think to me is that I identify with what the school is trying to do. I think I'm able to identify with the Lasallian mission and that it resonates within me. I believe that what we are doing in St. Pat's is meaningful and is worthwhile. As I've said many times to many groups of beginning teachers, once you have the conviction, the commitment will naturally follow. That is how I ended up 38 years in St. Pat's.